guys, Awkward Potato here with my very first book review. I've always loved to read, so I just figured this could be a fun thing to do in my off time, you know? So my very first one is going to be about The Great Gatsby. Yes, I know this is a weird cover. That's okay. I got this thing for $6. The Great Gatsby was written by one of my favorite authors, F. Scott Fitzgerald, who I discovered specifically because of The Great Gatsby. This book has some of the most truthful and loveliest lines that I've ever seen in literature. The very second line in the novel, right after the opening, is, "Whenever you feel like criticizing anyone, just remember that all the people in this world haven't had the advantages that you've had." That was advice that Nick Carraway, the main character's father, gave to Nick when he was just little. And that resonates true for, honestly, everybody. It's just astounding for it to be the very second line in a 189-page novel. Or at least it's 189 pages in this version. The imagery in this book is also super descriptive. While I was reading this, and honestly every time that I've read this, it's just been maybe like 5 to 6 times in the past 4 years. It's okay. Every time that I've read this book, I have felt like I was at Gatsby's parties. I've felt like I was at Tom's sprawling estate, at Myrtle's little side apartment, at Wilson's garage, at the ash heaps. It's amazing to me, just how well Fitzgerald construed what he wanted to construe. So a little bit about the characters before I go on to the basic plot line, which, I mean, a little bit of the plot line's already been given away. It's not really that big of a spoiler, I don't think. Nick Carraway is very socially awkward, very honest, and he is non-judgmental, specifically because of that second line in the novel. Tom Buchanan is a rich asshole, who has very controversial views on women, such as, "Jordan, why are you out and about? Why do you prance around this country? Her parents should do something. She needs a man to tell her, like, where the fuck to go." Fucking Tom. And he seems somewhat disillusioned with life. Like, he truly believes that he can keep Daisy and Myrtle and just be fine with it. Everyone be okay. Well, as okay as everyone is, anyway. He's a peaked in high school kind of guy. Yeah, the polo player, as he's introduced it later on in one of Jay's parties. Fucking Tom. Now we get to my least favorite character, fucking Daisy. Excuse me. Daisy Buchanan is tragically whimsical. She is in her own little world all the time. She's very foolish and she's very cowardly. Now, one good thing that I can say about her is in that one scene that we see with her and her daughter, she's a very loving and doting mother whenever she actually, deigns to see her kid. Instead of, just, "Go, Pammy, go with your nanny." So there's that. And she does seem to truly love her child, which is nice. But just fucking Daisy, man. So enough on that little rant. Just, I just had to get that out of my system for now. It's gonna come back. I just know it will. So next up is Jordan Baker, who is, again, Daisy's best friend since childhood, and later on, Nick Carraway's kind of girlfriend, kind of love interest, kind of just friend, kind of person, whatever. She has a habit of lying, and she is always really cool and collected, which I reckon is why she can play golf professionally very well. And finally, we get to Jay Gatsby, aka James Gatz. He has a flair for dramatics, a life built on lies up to this point, since the age of, 17, I think is when he ran off. And he has a major obsession and disillusionment with Daisy. He truly believes that if Daisy would tell Tom to just fuck off, they could run away together and be happily ever after. As if the past 5 years of separation and whatever the fuck hadn't happened. As if she didn't marry Tom. As if she didn't have a kid. As if they can recreate the past with no consequences whatsoever. Bless him. The story follows Nick Carraway, who, once he moves to West Egg, is caught up in the drama and day-to-day lives of Jordan Baker, Daisy and Tom Buchanan, and Jay Gatsby, aka James Gatz. Just a little bitty synopsis here of these characters' relationships. Daisy and Tom are unhappily married. Tom has a mistress named Myrtle Wilson, whose husband George Wilson owns the garage that Tom frequents, or seems to frequent. Yeah, doesn't say how often he goes there, just, they know each other, they have a quote-unquote deal with Tom's car, whatevs. It's fine. Jordan and Daisy have been best friends since their white girlhood in Louisville, Kentucky. During his stay there in West Egg, and during all of his interactions with Daisy, Tom, Jordan, and Gatsby, Nick eventually discovers Daisy and Gatsby's past, as well as Tom and Myrtle's affair. And after they finally meet back, after one of Gatsby's little schemes just so happens to work out, after Gatsby's little scheme to get them back at least into the same room works out, Daisy and Gatsby have their own little affair. They rekindle their love and whatever the fuck. Fucking Daisy. Sorry, I really hate Daisy's character. Anyway, that's beside my little point. I love this book, I really do. Anger is over here and happiness is over here, apparently. That's fine. Yeah. So they have their own little affair, they have their own little powwow, and it's all great. But then Gatsby is like, yo, Daisy, why don't you tell Tom that you never loved him? That way then you and I could be together forever and have back those 5 years that we didn't get to be together and that you were married to Tom. And I know you never loved him. You know you never loved him. And he's bound to know at some point that you never loved him. So just come be with me where you love me and I love you. And we can just be together happily ever after. Because, we can reclaim the past 5 years and just, recreate everything that never got to happen. Well, this all goes down. He blurts this out while Daisy, Gatsby, and Tom are in a hotel room with Jordan and Nick, who, at Daisy's request, at Daisy's insistence, and later Tom's insistence, they went to the city because it's so hot here. Can't a person get a drink? Can't a person just relax for a second in the heat? We're gonna melt or some shit, whatever the fuck. And no, you wanted to go to the city. We're going to the fucking city. Like, okay. So, yeah. The irony of being in that hotel room is there was a wedding at that time. The joy of one group versus the anguish of another. The joy. So anyway, Daisy chickens out, of course, because fucking Daisy. She can't commit. And she's already, happy with this shitty life that she's got. She's just used to it, I reckon. Because I reckon she's just used to it. So she runs out in tears and all of this bullshit. And Gatsby follows. Because, he's going to want to make sure that she gets home safe, at the very least. Because, he does love her. Maybe to an unhealthy amount. It's what obsessed people do. I can say as a fangirl. It's fine. My Little Pony. Anyway. So, since the group of 5 had taken 2 cars, Tom's blue one and Gatsby's yellow one, Jordan, Nick, and Tom all file into Tom's blue car and just go on the way home. And on their way, they discover there's been a hullabaloo at Wilson's garage. So they're like, okay, what the fuck happened? Come to find out, Daisy's been hit by a yellow car. Who else do we know with a yellow car? So at this point, everyone is convinced that Gatsby hit Myrtle Wilson and just kept on a-driving. Here's where another one of my fucking Daisy moments comes in. Well, I'll wait for a second or two. So, soon after, the morning after George, after his, huge shock and huge grief have passed, he's like, well, fuck this shit. I'm gonna get some revenge. Because no. Just no. And he goes out and he discovers, eventually, that the owner of the yellow car is a Mr. J. Gatsby. He lives in West Egg in a giant-ass mansion. So while Nick is at work, and after Nick has been told that the line for Gatsby's home is supposed to be kept open for Daisy, and Daisy never calls, by the way. So while Nick is at work, worried about his friend, because, they've been up since butt crack of dawn, maybe before then, I don't even know, just in a state, I guess. George Wilson finds Gatsby's home, finds Gatsby in his pool for the very first time that summer because he hadn't gotten to use it, and shoots him and then kills himself. And the only people that came to Gatsby's funeral were Henry Gatz, Gatsby's father, Nick Carraway, who took it upon himself to basically be Gatsby's only friend in his time of need, in his time of death, whatever the fuck, and the Allied man, who was frequently in Gatsby's library during parties. None of the other thousands of visitors showed up for his funeral. Not Mayor Wolfsheim, not his other connections from Chicago. No one. Not even Klipspringer, who was basically living in his house for free for I don't even know how long. And not Daisy. Not Tom, not Jordan, and especially not Daisy. Fucking Daisy was the one driving that damn car. So that's the basic plot. And I guess from there I'm going to go on to the most frequently mentioned objects in that book, aside from the yellow car and the mansions and whatever the fuck. And that would be the green light and the billboard of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, which was a billboard for an optometrist that died or moved away or something. And those are basically symbols, at least as I see it. I don't know what exactly Fitzgerald meant for them to be, considering I can't read his mind, and I'm pretty sure he's dead now. If he's not, then I'm really damn impressed. Yeah, he was born in 1896, so that is impressive. That would be hella impressive if he was still alive today. Hella impressive, oh my gosh. So, yeah. So as I see those two, those would be symbols. The green light would be Gatsby's beacon to Daisy, and his nearness to her, but also being so far away, both emotionally and physically, for so many years. And Dr. T.J. Eckelberg are the eyes of God. Apparently, George Wilson thinks the same, because as he was trying to get Myrtle to leave and confronting her about her affair, and said, you can fool me, but you can't fool God. And staring directly into their bedroom were the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, the fucking billboard for the oculist. Which, granted, the retinas are a yard high, so there was that. I would probably assume they were the eyes of God, too, if I was in 1925, New York, Manhattan, whatever the fuck. I've got just 3 more quotes that I just fucking love. Specifically, aside from just the very last one, which is just honestly gorgeous anyway. The first one is, his mind would never again romp like the mind of God. That was spoken about Gatsby once he finally kissed a daisy for the very first time back 5 years ago in Louisville. And it's pretty dang indicative of her becoming his end goal, his dream, his desire, his obsession. From that point on, no longer money or wealth, riches, women, fame, anything would make him happy. Unless it made Daisy happy. Unless it was Daisy. He felt married to her. That was all. She didn't feel the same way, and they weren't nearly married. She was still with Tom, and he was still, in his mind, he was hers, and she was his. But the truth of the matter is that wasn't so. And it's just heartbreaking to me. And finally, my third quote. This was the only compliment that Nick believes he ever gave Gatsby. They're a rotten crowd. You're worth the whole damn bunch put together. Nick's glad he said that, and I am too. Because it's true. As weirdly obsessed with Daisy as Gatsby was, he had a pure heart. He did everything for her because he loved her. And he tried not to do anything wrong by her. It's unclear if Nick meant the rotten crowd as Jordan, Daisy, and Tom, or Meyer Wolfsheim, and his other connections, or all of the above, but it's true all the same. And finally, I have a couple of questions that just went left totally unanswered by the book. Trust me, I kept notes during my latest rereading, specifically for this review. Just to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So first and foremost, what happened to Myrtle's Airedale puppy? Tom bought her an Airedale while they were on the way to Myrtle's apartment that first time with Nick. Secondly, why didn't Jay's mother show up to his funeral? Henry did. But not a thing was said about his mother being ill or bedridden or dead or having run off with somebody. And thirdly and finally, what the fuck happened to Klipspringer? He was basically living in Gatsby's house for who knows how long. When did he run off? And it's just really unclear as to, like, when did he leave? Why did he leave? Did he leave when the gunshots happened? Did he leave when all of the normal servants went? Because as I understood it, he was not a servant. He was like a pianist kind of thing. Like a pianist singing, living friend thing, kind of like Jordan was, only she was a golfer instead of a pianist. And, like, I didn't even know he was gone until he called about not being able to find his specific tennis shoes. I left them there. Can you just send them this way? Wherever the fuck he was. I would have to say, this being one of my favorites, I might have a bias, but I would have to give this one like an A+. Maybe an A- because fucking Daisy. Thank you guys for tuning in, and keep an eye out for my next review. I love to read, so there's gonna be more.